Welcome, everybody, to the Proactive Adventure Health and Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm going to do an episode, unlike most of the others, second solo episode, and it's going to be an Ask Me Anything episode. We've asked for some questions from followers on Instagram, some supporters of Proactive on the social hikes. So we got a bunch of questions that I'm going to answer. That's going to be the episode. Yesterday, we did Schoonamunk Tour, Spring Schoonamunk Tour, and Rosette, Brittany, and Phil were there with me. We had a good hike, about 13 miles. Saw our first bear of the season. Came walking up the trail, and he was sitting right off the trail, a giant black bear. I had just talked with somebody yesterday about that, too, that said to bring my bear spray out of the blue for no reason. And I said, I don't always bring my bear spray because I don't always need it because I don't expect to see bears everywhere. And yesterday, I saw one of the biggest bears, the closest I've ever been to one, ever. So that was an interesting experience. And they do run when you scream at them and you smash some sticks around. So that happened yesterday. And I'm also finishing up Justin's podcast. So if you're listening to this one, Justin's was the last episode. It's a monster episode. So when I get home from this, I'm going to finish that. I'm here with Jarod.
Can we talk about that that bear encounter? You had a bear encounter?
I had a bear encounter. I know I didn't bring it up before. Yeah, we were, for anybody that knows, we were in Schoonamunk State Park yesterday. We were doing Schoonamunk Tour, which is, about 13, 14 miles. And we were coming back from High Knob, coming back to where the trails intersect, which is where you're kind of coming back into like a more popular area. So I wasn't expecting to see a bear there, of all places. And we had been seeing deer all day. So they kept darting off, and I would hear them rustle. And I heard a little bit of rustling coming up from very close ahead of where I was. And it just sounded different. It wasn't as fast and it wasn't as hoppy. And it was kind of just more of like a crawl. And as I turned the corner, I looked to my left and I just saw the backside of a probably, like 400 pound black bear. And it turned its head and I looked and I just screamed as loud as I could and put my hands in the air just like they tell you to do. And that thing took off pretty fast into the woods.
Was it like an adolescence or like a full grown bear?
Hard for me to say. It looked to me to be full grown, but it may have just been at that moment. It looked, because I'm sure there could be bigger ones.
I guess it really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
At that moment, no. I've never actually gotten that close to one. It kind of snuck up on it. It didn't see me coming, so we both kind of like startled each other.
No, I mean, it's good that you did that rather than that was your natural reaction rather than pull out your phone or some dumb stuff like that.
I will say somebody in the group did ask if I took a video afterward, and I was like, no, I did not take a video. The group was behind me by quite a bit, so they didn't see it when it happened, but they could hear me screaming, and I heard them like kind of screaming back to me, like to see if I was okay. But I also didn't tell them that there was a bear until we got back to the more populated part of the trail.
See, I would have hammed it up. Like I would have rolled in the dirt a little bit and be like, there was a pack of black bears.
I should just told them that I beat the bear up.
They were heading towards the group. I had to save you guys.
So you got some questions for me over there?
Yes, sir.
What do we got? Let's see if I can come up with something interesting for the viewers here.
These are submitted through the Instagram at Proactive.
That's it.
What has been your most memorable social hike?
Most memorable social hike. And now, okay, so the memorable social hikes are different than my solo hikes and hikes that I've done with like the core group. So I have to think about that one for a second. There's probably a few of them. I mean, one that comes back right away to me is the March 2019 We Hike to Heal hike at Storm King. That was sponsored by Merrill. And the reason that one's very memorable to me is because we had like too many people there. We probably had about 30, 35 people in this small parking lot of Storm King. We had a food truck. I've told this story before that the police made us get rid of.
The food truck?
There was a food truck. We had a food truck in the parking lot that Merrill set up. And so
they didn't have proper permits or something?
No, they had a generator running. It was a vegan food truck. I remember pulling up and the cooks or the I guess the vegan cooks that were working the food truck came running out of the woods barefoot.
Very vegan of them.
It's very vegan of them, right? And it was after a little while, once the crowd started to get together and we started basically taking up the whole parking lot, that a police officer pulled up, and he walks up and he's like, "What's going on here? A food truck, this and that." And I told him, "Oh, we have a Merrill representative here. Merrill set this thing up. We're being, a partnership with Merrill." And the cop's natural reaction was to tell us that, "Oh, he wears Merrills," and he started chatting with us about his Merrill shoes that he loves so much. And he was about to let it go, about to let the food truck go, and about to leave when his supervisor, it looked like his supervisor, pulled up. And I remember him leaning his face into the car. I couldn't hear what was being said, but it looked like he was being heavily admonished for even entertaining the idea of letting us leave the food truck. So then he came back with his head down, just like, "All right, I have to ask you guys to wrap the food truck up." So that had to go. But the day was good. We had a big crowd, and I just felt like that was a real powerful day. There's so many. There's just too many to pick one that's memorable.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty damn good one.
That one just sticks out to me, though.
30 people. That's a great turnout.
Yeah, it was a good turnout. Definitely a good turnout.
Next question. What is your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. A non-hiking question. I like that. If this was a few years ago, I may have said The Walking Dead, but that kind of took a nosedive for me after a few seasons, after Negan popped up, for anybody that watches that show. It got a little harder to watch after that. And I guess if I had to answer that question, I'm going to have two different types of shows that would be my favorite. The Sopranos is my favorite show of all time, I would say. And I think I've watched that whole series more than a dozen times straight through. And it's funny because that show, as it was on live, it was always hard to follow week to week. But once it was on streaming, it's just so easy to rip through that whole show. I really, James Gandolfini's a genius. And I guess my other favorite show of all time in the different vein would be The Twilight Zone. Rod Serling's one of my idols, and he's given me a lot of creative inspiration, especially for the other realms, the short stories that I'm writing. They're heavily influenced by Rod Serling.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Who was the first one again? What was the first one? The
Sopranos.
I mean, and you also being from New Jersey, I'm sure that gives you a bit of a pride with it as well.
Absolutely.
I would.
I mean, the funny thing is when that show's on, I kind of feel like I'm at home.
Nice.
Just
I mean, hell, he shot what? I mean, everything in that show is probably 45 minutes away from your house.
Oh yeah, I could find a lot of that stuff nearby.
What would it take for you, either an event or an injury, to stop hiking?
What would it take for me to stop hiking?
Obviously, if you crack a vertebrae, that's probably going to take you out. But
yeah, if I couldn't walk and I couldn't do it, I would obviously have to stop. But I think anything aside from that, even
not to be also, but actually there are wheelchair accessible trails.
They actually make trails just for that use now that we've stumbled upon sometimes that are oddly in the middle of rugged terrain. You'll come off onto a perfectly level dirt area that's meant for that.
Wheels only trail.
Pretty much, yeah. But I honestly think I can't imagine that I would allow anything to stop me from doing this. I would hope that, aside from death or crippling injury, that I would be able to hike. Because I feel like even under the worst circumstances, if anything else, disease or other issues, Armageddon maybe, I would still want to hike.
I mean, Armageddon, that's where all this is going to come in handy, when you have to go out there.
That's right. So. That's right. You know it, man.
All right. Next question. What is the best advice you can give for a non-hiker who wants to get into hiking?
To hike. I would say I got introduced to hiking by happenstance, being invited by a friend who wasn't a hiker themselves, a friend's mother, actually. Guy's mother, Lori, Tina, you two invited me out there to go hiking. They weren't hikers, but getting on the trail sparked my interest more than I ever expected it would. I didn't have any idea of what was out there and that there were trails marked like that you could do. I would, you're on the highway when you're riding along the highway and you see mountains on either side of you. The last thing you picture, if you don't know, is that there's an intricate, trail route going through it.
I always think like, man, that would just suck to get lost in.
But once I was brought to a trailhead and unknowingly wandered into the woods on a trail, it sparked my interest so much that it just snowballed. So, I mean, I think the first thing to do, and I didn't know this back then, but I would maybe now find a hiking group. It's not self-promotion, any hiking group you want to find, but going out with somebody who does know and getting your first hike in, I think that would get you started.
What's cool is that kind of answers the next question, which was, what are some tips to becoming a better hiker?
Oh yeah, I'd just say hike as much as you can.
Two for one.
They're 2 for 1.
Have you considered any national or international hiking trips?
I have considered them. Been a little hard to get together, and I'm still kind of working my way through the states here. Iceland, just for the Aurora Borealis and the stars.
I can't remember if it was that or maybe Greenland where my brother went. He went on like a winter, it was cold, no shit, but he went on a hiking trip to either there or Greenland. I can't quite remember.
I just like the idea of being out, like you hear about hot springs and Aurora Borealis. Aurora Borealis. It feels like you're on a whole different planet, and I want to experience that a little bit.
When will you run your first ultra marathon?
I guess I can answer that 2 ways, because I'm not very much into like organized competitive runs. I would like to run 100 miles on the long path directly to my home.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't worked out what the starting point for that would be yet. But the long path runs hundreds of miles, and it does run to the basically George Washington Bridge. 10 miles from there, or 5 miles from there, is my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to start 100 miles out, get dropped off there, and then just run, or hike, run. I think after I do that, I would consider doing one of the ultra runs that are organized. But first, I think I need to get through these next couple humps.
5 years ago, did you think Proactive would be where it is today, and where do you think it will be in the next 5 years?
Oh, I definitely did not think that Proactive would be what it was today 5 years ago. When I started Proactive, I would say I naively believed that by now, or I shouldn't even say by now, I, with naivete, believed that we'd be something else entirely. I would imagine a bustling small office and us sending out equipment or something. Like I didn't expect this to turn into so much of about the people and about the hikes and about the experiences. I thought it was going to be more of an outdoor brand 5 years ago at some point, which I know it's like kind of ridiculous to think about the way things have gone. I did not expect at all the connections I would have made from this group. Like, because now everybody in the group are basically my best friends, people I see more often than most other people. I have so many shared experiences with these people, and it's become so much more about people than about things, I have to say. So that's something I didn't expect 5 years ago. And with that, my business model, I say that very loosely, is now focused on the experiences, because I think within the next 5 years, especially starting this year, it's going to become more about like the Proactive Challenge and these events like the barbecues and the dinners and the things that get people together. So I think it's going to be more community-based. And I think in the next 5 years that the Proactive Challenge, I'm hoping and expecting that it'll become more of a something that people are actually competing for, that our community out here is actually interested in, and that holds some prestige in our community.
What is your day job?
What is my day job?
Mm-hmm.
It's a question a lot of people ask me when they meet me on these hikes, and I always try to explain. Jarod knows what my day job is because we work together here. We're in the motion picture industry. We work in TV and film. We do set dressing, part of the art department. So our job, to really dumb it down, is we help decorate and partially build the sets that you see in TV shows and movies. There's so much that I can get into with that answer, but it is a cool job comparatively to regular day jobs. Every day it's basically something different, even to some degree. I don't get the groundhog effect as much here than I have at any other job I've had.
I'm a proud union member.
There we go. But that's our job. We set dressing, and work in TV and film. Currently, Law and Order Organized Crime.
Would you consider live streaming or making IRL hiking videos?
Absolutely. It's one of my biggest failures, to be quite honest. I, years ago, during the pandemic, purchased a lot of equipment, gimbals and cameras and things and holders and all types of accessories to do just that. But yet, over the time, I have not really gotten into doing it for one reason or the other. But yes, it's something I would like to do. It's always been on the to-do list, getting shifted along. I think it has a lot to do with, I have to get into the habit of doing it, because getting on these hikes, I tend to just go, even when I intend on doing it, I still just go, and we get in there and we get into the moment. And it's hard to step out of the action of hiking to take the camera out sometimes. And it's a habit that we were getting better at, but it kind of comes and goes. But yes, I would like to. And I think with some discipline, I can start to do it. Just need to get to it.
How do you find time to organize hikes and run proactive while working and dealing with life?
I guess by just cramming something into every second of my day. I feel like I often do stretch myself a little thin, but I set my priorities. And you know what? Work is a priority and proactive is a priority. And my health is a priority. So I'm able to try to work all three of those things in, and along with everything else that comes with life. But, you know, from the second I get up to the second I go to sleep, I'm usually doing something that's either for work or for proactive or for my health. And it's really not about making time. It's just about prioritizing actually what you do at that time.
Next question.
All right, what do you got? What do you got?
It is, what are some of the hardest mental challenges you've encountered when it comes to hiking?
It's changed over the years, definitely. It's kind of funny to think back to when I started hiking. I remember planning my first 10-mile hike and being dissuaded by a lot of people and letting it get into my head and feeling like just the general feeling like I wasn't going to be able to do it with 10 miles. And then the same situation happening from 10 to 20 miles and then 20 to 30 miles. And the feeling like, can I do that? And now I'm at the point where I kind of know I can. So the mental challenge has changed. Now I think it's more, I know I can do it, but now you have these certain situations where, depending on like weather, temperature, and like things that are, what should I say? What's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's like it's all. What is the word? I'm sorry, I want to get this word out.
Like your mentality?
It's like incidental almost, I should say. It's an incidental mental challenge now, to like where I know if I'm going out in like -20 weather, I'll be like, okay, it's -20. Like, do I have everything I need? Am I going to be okay in this moment? Because I know in most any other situation I'd be fine to do it. If it's like very rainy out, I'll wonder if there's going to be floods that are going to affect other things, like it did my car not too long ago on the 40-miler where the car was flooded at the end. It's more incidental to where I know physically I'm able to do all these things, but now I tend to maybe think about conditions surrounding each hike. But it definitely has changed over the years, and I think it will continue to change over the years, because now I'm already in my mind wondering about the 48-mile hike, the Double Devil. I'm like, how's that going to be on the way back? You know, so it's very incidental.
Maybe you should get someone to just drop you off.
Just, what do you mean, just drop me off?
That way your car is not just sitting in a danger zone.
Just to not think about the car at all.
Yeah.
That's
completely eliminate that.
That would definitely probably help my mental state, especially after the last few times.
Who would be your dream partnership / sponsorship for Proactive?
Okay. I would say Merrell to start with, because I've been wearing Merrell boots for the last 6 years on just about every single hike I've done, and I'm a big fan of their boots. That's an outdoor sponsorship partnership. I think the sort of alternate dream would be like Dunkin' Donuts, because I love Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, I think this is more of a question of like who wouldn't you want sponsoring you? You know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna say like
That's true. I can't say I don't want. I wouldn't want to say I don't want anybody sponsoring me.
Even the Joe Rogan podcast, their first sponsor was the Fleshlight. You know,
Fleshlight.
Literally.
Hey man, and look where they are today.
If you could visit anywhere in the world for free, where would you want to go?
For free. And anywhere in the world, and like for free is one thing, but anywhere in the world safely. I always had a dream of hiking in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
know.
it depends where you go.
I'm sure it might be different now.
Maybe they have like exclusion zones and shit like that.
I'm sure they do, but I imagine the wilderness out there must be really gorgeous. I mean, if we're gonna say for free, I want to go to Iceland. So if I want to, if I can go for free, even better.
I was gonna ask if you maybe Japan, because I was gonna say maybe they had good trails, but really the only one I can think of is that one forest that everybody in.
Yes,
Maybe not that one.
Maybe not that one.
What are one or two things you wish you knew when you started hiking?
How to read a map when I started hiking would have been nice. It took me a little time to get used to that. So in those first couple hikes, trying to find things that I was looking for, cemeteries and ruins and things that I was searching for in the woods was always hard. So I wish I knew how to do that when I started hiking. I wish I knew how much of a positive change it would make in my life. Because at that time, when I started hiking, I was kind of just coming out of addiction and coming out of all the kind of being out of shape and things along those lines. And I probably would have even hit it harder if I knew what kind of positive benefits it was going to have. And I guess there was a lot that I wish I knew when I started hiking. The amount of places I've been since then, too, I had no idea half these places existed. So I may have gotten to some places sooner than I did. But I think the number one thing is I wish I just knew the positive benefits it would have in my life.
All right. Final question, going out with a bang. Did you see yourself as the leader of an elite hiking syndicate as a child?
Ooh, elite hiking syndicate. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
No, not at all, because I didn't hike when I was a kid. But I always had it in me to be like the leader of a group. Even at a younger age, I was always starting like clubs in school and little groups for things, and I was always a leader more than a follower. I actually remember when my father said that to me. I think I was being, I had some issues at school with another kid that was at school. I forgot what it was. Probably like mutual bullying at that point. But I remember my father saying to me to be a leader, not a follower, and that stuck with me since I was like 6 years old. So I always wound up like taking charge of things and running groups and running organizations and being a ringleader or whatever it is. And over the years, I would have never imagined it would be in this capacity. But the amount of people I've been able to meet and motivate and inspire since we started Proactive, I would ask for nothing more. But no, I didn't expect it at all. I'm happy that it's this way. Those are all of our questions.
Yes, sir.
I hope some of that was somewhat interesting.
I dig it.
Yeah, I mean,
There's some good ones.
I know that first episode of the podcast I talked all about quite a bit. So there's a lot of detail in that one. But these are some interesting questions.
Yeah, but you gotta refresh the people every once in a while.
Yeah, and I hope that we do another episode like this with some more questions, more varying questions. I'd like to talk about anything, really. But, yeah. So that's where we're at. Answered all the questions I think we got here. I will say, we're in what now? Almost the end of April? So we're almost at the end of the Proactive Challenge, too.
Wow.
2023, 2024. I remember setting this up. It was right after the strike happened last time, May of 2023. I started setting up this challenge, and it looked like it was never going to end. When I set it up and I started writing out May for 2024 and what challenges people had to do, I thought that would feel like it would take forever to get to. And I really can't believe since January that we're already in May, almost at the end of the challenge. And I'm excited to start working on next year's challenge. If you're listening, this is probably going to come out in May too. So I think if you're listening to this episode, details of the 2024-2025 challenge are probably coming out right now, imminently. And it's going to be a little different than the last year's challenge. I have more ways to get points for people. I've added different methods where there's like alternates so people can do different things but still earn the points for the month. One of the bigger things is the top 10 from this year will not have to pay for next year's challenge. So that's a prize for the top 10 in the 2023-2024 challenge. Will not have to pay for next year's challenge. And the belt for this year will be awarded to the winner at the barbecue. You're going to be at the barbecue? Mm-hmm. You're going to be there. August 17th. It's tight at the top of the competition. I guess that's all I got for today. But thank you for listening to this. This can't be a long one. So this one's a little appetizer. We're working on some new guests coming in. Find us at Proactive
AHW
on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, X. I'm Joe, and that's Jarod, and that's it.
Not TikTok for long, though.
So roll with it, man. A lot of crap.